The ground shakes. Not once, not like thunder, but in pulses. Heavy, measured, relentless. Someone is screaming, but it cuts off halfway through the breath. Dust fills the air. You taste iron, you don't know if it's blood or fear, maybe both. A shield crashes to the ground. Another follows. Then another. Footsteps pound closer. Too many, far too many. Orders are being shouted, but they overlap, collide, dissolve into noise. You hear your own breathing, too loud, too fast. Someone grabs your arm. You don't see their face. You don't need to. The line is breaking. Metal shrieks as it scrapes against metal. Something slams into your shoulder. You stagger. The world tilts. For a heartbeat, everything goes quiet, just the ringing in your ears. Then it comes back all at once. Cries, horns, the deep animal roar of a mass that cannot be stopped. You try to step back. There's nowhere to go. A shadow passes in front of you. Tall, wide, blocking the light. Another shadow joins it. Then another. They keep coming. Someone is praying, not loudly, almost apologetically. You hear a command, short, final, absolute. Stand. You plant your feet. Your hands are shaking now, not from weakness, from knowing. From understanding that this moment has been waiting for you. That everything before this was only preparation. A shape moves in the smoke. You raise your weapon. You don't know if anyone is beside you anymore. You don't turn to look. Because if this is the end, you will face it forward. And as the noise swells and the shadows close in, one thought cuts through everything else. When this is over, will anyone know what happened here? The year is heavy with consequence. Across the Greek world, the balance of power trembles. Alliances strain. Old rivalries are temporarily buried beneath a greater fear, one that presses in from the east with unimaginable force. This is not a time of peace. It is a time of waiting. Messages travel slowly. Decisions are made without certainty. No one truly knows how far the enemy will go or what will be left behind if they succeed. Certain locations become more than places. They become promises, choke points, symbols, lines drawn not just on maps but in the minds of men who understand what happens if those lines fail. The military importance of these positions is obvious, but their psychological weight is even greater. To hold them is to project defiance. To lose them is to invite collapse. Every soldier knows this, even if no one says it out loud. Resources are stretched thin. Forces are divided. Commanders argue in low voices over fires that burn late into the night. Reinforcements are discussed, delayed, redirected. And beneath it all is the quiet realization that not everyone will be saved. Sparta, more than any other city, understands this reality. Their entire society is built around the acceptance of sacrifice. From childhood, its warriors are taught not how to survive, but how to endure. Yet even in Sparta, there is unease. Not fear in the ordinary sense, but awareness. The kind that settles in the chest and refuses to leave. The kind that tells you history is accelerating and you are standing directly in its path. The war does not announce its turning points. It simply arrives at them. At camps and outposts, soldiers sharpen blades they may never use again. Armor is repaired again and again, as if preparation itself might be a form of control. But control is an illusion. Everyone feels it, the sense that something is coming, something final, something that will be remembered even if the details are lost. No one knows when the moment will arrive. Only that when it does, there will be no time left to ask questions. They are not introduced with names. In Sparta, names matter less than function. From the moment they can walk, they are shaped, tested by hunger, cold, exhaustion. Comfort is removed early so weakness has nowhere to hide. By the time they are counted among the 3,000, they have already endured more than most men will in a lifetime. Their days begin before sunrise. No complaints, no delays, equipment is checked in silence. Mistakes are corrected without mercy. Training is constant. Formation drills until legs burn and vision blurs. Weapons practice until movement becomes instinct, not thinking, reacting. Discipline is absolute. Disobedience does not bring anger. It brings disappointment, and disappointment in Sparta is far worse. Yet they are not machines. At night when the fires are low, there are moments, brief, unspoken, where humanity surfaces. A glance, a shared piece of bread, a joke muttered too quietly for officers to hear. Some think of home. Others no longer remember what home feels like. They are told only what they need to know. Orders are delivered cleanly. No explanation, no reassurance. That, too, is part of the training. Emotion is controlled, not eliminated. Fear is acknowledged, then placed aside. Loyalty to the unit, to the line, to the man beside you is everything. Because when the moment comes, it will not be individual strength that matters. It will be cohesion. They know the stories. Every Spartan does. Stories of stands that changed history, of men who held when logic demanded retreat. Those stories are not told to inspire hope. They are told to establish expectation. You are not special. You are not exempt. One day, you may be required to become a story yourself. And so they wait, eating when allowed, sleeping lightly, listening. Always listening. It starts with silence. Not the normal quiet of night, but a hollow absence. Signals that should arrive do not. Messengers fail to return. At first it is dismissed. Delays happen, terrain interferes, no one panics. Then patterns emerge. Scouts report nothing, and that is what troubles them. Too little movement, too few signs of life. Animals avoid certain paths. Fires in the distance vanish overnight. Familiar landmarks seem wrong. Orders come through fragmented, words missing, instructions unclear. Some soldiers swear they hear movement beyond the perimeter, but when they look, there is nothing. Commanders exchange looks they don't explain. The air feels heavier. Sound carries strangely. Even voices seem swallowed before they travel far. No alarms are raised. Officially, nothing is wrong. Unofficially, everyone feels it. The men clean their weapons more often. They check straps that were already secure. Sleep becomes shallow. Something is approaching, but no one can say from where. And then nothing. The waiting stretches, tightens, breath held too long. Still, no explanation comes. It does not begin with a signal. There is no warning horn, no shouted command. One moment the line holds. The next it doesn't. Noise erupts from every direction. Footsteps, shouting, the crash of bodies colliding. Orders are lost almost immediately. Visibility drops, dust, smoke, confusion. Men move on instinct alone. Shields rise, formation bends but does not fully break. Time loses shape. Moments stretch, then collapse. Someone falls, someone else takes their place without thinking. The pressure increases, not sudden, inevitable. Sound becomes overwhelming, then suddenly distant, as if the world is pulling away. And then silence. Not peace. Absence. When it ends, there is no clear conclusion, no victory, no defeat. Only unanswered space. The response begins before the dust fully settles. Orders move fast, but not cleanly. Messengers arrive out of breath, carrying instructions that seem rushed, incomplete, and already outdated by the time they are spoken. Commanders demand clarity. None is given. Search units are assembled within hours. They move cautiously, expecting resistance. None comes. The ground tells a story, but not a complete one. Scattered equipment lies where it should not. Shields stacked too neatly. Weapons abandoned without signs of struggle. Footprints overlap and then vanish, as if swallowed by the earth itself. There are no clear lines, no obvious retreat paths, no definitive point where everything collapsed. That absence is the first problem. Reports begin to arrive from different units, and they don't agree. One group claims the formation held longer than expected. Another insists it broke almost immediately. A third mentions a signal that was never officially recorded. Timestamps contradict one another by hours. No two accounts align perfectly. Commanders question survivors, those who returned, those who arrived late, those stationed just far enough away to see shapes but not details. The questions are precise. The answers are not. Some witnesses hesitate. Others speak confidently, then change their story under follow-up. A few refuse to speak at all. They are not punished, they are reassigned. Searches expand outward, hills, paths, narrow passes. Each turn promises answers, none delivers them. Instead, they find traces that raise more questions. Marks in the soil that suggest movement, but not pursuit. Signs of pressure without direction. Areas where the ground appears disturbed, then abruptly untouched again. The numbers don't add up. Official tallies list losses, but the math never quite resolves. Bodies expected are missing. Equipment counted twice. Some names appear on multiple rosters. Others vanish entirely between drafts. Clerks rewrite reports. Dates are corrected. Language becomes vague. Phrases begin to repeat. Unclear circumstances. Operational confusion. Enemy movement uncertain. Files are stamped, then unstamped, then filed again. High command grows impatient. They request conclusions, not questions. The investigation shifts tone. What began as a search for understanding becomes a process of containment. Loose ends are tied, not by explanation, but by omission. Maps are redrawn, areas of interest quietly removed from future patrol routes. References to specific moments are replaced with general summaries. Witnesses are dispersed across different units, separated, isolated. When asked later, many cannot remember exact details, or claim they never saw anything unusual at all. The official version begins to solidify. It is clean, efficient, unsatisfying. According to it, the engagement unfolded rapidly. Communication failed. The enemy exploited the confusion. Losses were heavy but expected. The matter is considered closed. Yet even within the finalized reports, inconsistencies remain. Margins contain notes that were never incorporated, questions left unanswered, references to attachments that no longer exist. Some pages are missing entirely. Years later, historians will notice the gaps. They will remark on how unusually brief the documentation is for an event of such importance. They will find mentions of sealed testimonies, of records restricted without clear justification, of decisions made off record. But by then, those who knew the truth, if there was a single truth, will be gone. What remains is not evidence, but discomfort. The sense that something vital was lost not on the battlefield, but in the aftermath. Not through destruction, but through silence. And in military history, silence is rarely accidental. When official explanations fail, theories take their place. They begin quietly, among soldiers first, whispered between shifts, shared only with those who were close enough to feel that something was wrong but far enough away to survive it. Over time, those whispers harden into narratives. The first theory is the simplest, and for that reason, the most widely accepted. It suggests overwhelming force. According to this view, the final battle was never meant to be held. The enemy arrived faster and in greater numbers than anticipated. Communication collapsed. The line was pressed from multiple directions at once. What looked like disappearance was simply destruction happening too quickly to be properly recorded. There are details that support it. the lack of organized retreat, the scattered equipment, the contradictory timelines. But the theory struggles to explain the silences. If the force was so great, why are there no consistent accounts of its arrival? Why do descriptions of the enemy vary so dramatically between witnesses? And why were certain reports altered long after the fact, when the danger had already passed? The second theory is more unsettling. It proposes intentional sacrifice. Not defeat, but decision. Supporters of this theory point to delayed reinforcements, to orders that were issued, then quietly reversed, to the unusual calm in certain command records written before the incident occurred. They argue that the 100 were not lost unexpectedly, but positioned deliberately, that their stand was meant to buy time, to draw attention, to fix the enemy in place long enough for something else to succeed elsewhere. If true, this would not be unprecedented. Sparta is no stranger to calculated loss. But here, the contradictions multiply. If it was planned, why erase the details? Why obscure the timing? Why allow confusion to replace clarity, especially when sacrifice is something Sparta traditionally honors openly? The third theory moves into darker territory. Betrayal. This version suggests that information was leaked, routes exposed, signals misinterpreted or intentionally falsified, that the final battle was shaped not only by external pressure but by internal fracture. Those who believe this point to missing correspondence, to testimonies that were sealed without explanation, to individuals who vanished from records entirely shortly after the incident. Yet there is no clear beneficiary. No obvious traitor, no recorded reward, no captured messenger. And in war, betrayal without gain is rare. The final theory is the hardest to define and the easiest to dismiss. It claims that the truth itself was too destabilizing to preserve. Not because of shame, not because of failure, but because what happened did not fit the logic of command, doctrine, or expectation. That events unfolded in a way that could not be explained without undermining confidence. That fear, real fear, briefly entered the chain of command. According to this view, the erasures were not malicious, but protective, a way to restore order by smoothing over something deeply unsettling. There are hints of this in the language of later reports, in how they avoid specifics, in how they emphasize continuity over detail. No single theory resolves every contradiction. Each explains part of the record and fails another. And perhaps that is the point. The truth may not belong to any one narrative. It may exist only in the spaces between them, in the documents that were never filed, the testimonies never unsealed, the memories that were carried but never shared. And as long as those silences remain intact, the final battle will remain unfinished. In the years that follow, the war ends, treaties are signed, victories are carved into stone, names are remembered selectively. The 3,000 are honored as they always are, through ritual, through story, through repetition. Their discipline becomes legend. Their endurance becomes instruction. But the 100 are different. They are not forgotten, but they are rarely described. Their final moments are condensed into a sentence, sometimes less, a footnote, a number, a pause in the narrative before history moves on to something easier to explain. No monument marks the exact place. No inscription tells the full story. Visitors pass through the region without knowing what happened there, or sensing only a vague heaviness they can't explain. Even among later soldiers, the tale is told cautiously. Details blur, certainty fades. What remains is tone, not fact. A sense of finality without closure. Historians still debate it, not loudly, not confidently. They circle the event, aware of the gaps, careful not to press too hard against missing evidence that cannot be replaced. Because the truth, whatever it was, never surfaced cleanly. Perhaps it was buried out of necessity, perhaps out of fear, or perhaps out of respect for something that could not be fully understood without diminishing it. Some sacrifices are meant to be seen. Others are meant only to be felt. And so the story ends where it began, not with an answer, but with a question that refuses to settle. When the line finally broke, when the noise faded into silence, and when the records were closed, was the truth lost to time? Or was it deliberately left behind? Backhand index pointing down. What do you think happened? Share your theory in the comments.